Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Planning and Zoning hearing. It's November 18th, 2015. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Right now, everything is on the consent agenda except for 4E and 4F. I need blue cards if there's any other cases. I need the blue cards for E and F, also 4E and F, after the consent agenda is read. Is there any other blue cards on any other cases besides 4E and 4F? Just doing a little bit of housekeeping here. It's about ready to start talking about the cards.
4D.
The historic designation? 4B? D. Got that, Mike? D is off?
Yeah, 3 off.
Great, thank you. Okay, if Board Member Clements could please read the consent agenda, we'll get this meeting going.
Absolutely. Items on the consent agenda include the following: approval of the minutes from the October 20th and 21st, 2015 study sessions and regular hearing as was amended in yesterday's study session. Today, excuse me. Thank you. Item 3A, PZ 15590, and is not, actually, let me rephrase that. It's Z15-042, District 1, 1003 North Dobson Road. Site plan modification recommendation with approval with conditions. 4A, which is Z15-033 in District 3, 2210 West Southern Avenue. Rezone from OC to LC and site plan review. Staff its continuance to the December 16, 2015 meeting. Item 4B, which is Z15-034 in District 4, 4112 North McDonald, rezone from DR-1-8 HD to DR-1-HD-HL, approval with conditions. Item 4C, which is Z15-038 District 3, 1126 West Medina Avenue and 2345 and 2355 South Alamo School Road. Rezoning from OC to RSL-4.0 pad and OC-pad with site plan modification. Approval with conditions.
Now, also, Mr. Wesley, no, 5B will come up also with 4D, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
5B is off?
Yeah, so just 5A and 5C.
Okay. Continuing on, item 5A, Medina Court District 3, 1126 West Medina Avenue and 2345 and 2355 South Alamo School Road. These would be preliminary plats. Approval with conditions. And item 5C, Sunland Springs Village Unit 9, District 6, the 11400 through 11500 blocks of East Guadalupe Road. Preliminary plat. Approval with conditions.
Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read in for the record.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, the next item that we'll be going over will be 4D. This is Z15039 in District 3, 2200 through 2300 blocks of East Jacinto Avenue, located north of Baseline Road and east of Gilbert Road, approximately 5.4 acres, rezoning from LC to RM3 PAD and site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a multi-residence project. What I was thinking, could we get staff to do an overview and then have the public speak, and then we can just follow it up with the applicant? Okay, great. If staff could help me out there.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. Oh, this one's on. All right. So this is a proposal, an infill project in the northeast corner of an unbuilt northeast corner of an existing commercial center. Across Jacinto Avenue, there's existing residential. Across 24th Street, existing single residential. The applicant is proposing a condominium community with 102 units, and so they're proposing rezoning from the existing LC zoning district to RM3 PAD with site plan review. The PAD overlay, of course, is allowing a few modifications from our our development standards in exchange for a higher level of development quality. We've laid that out in the staff report and feel that we are receiving that higher level of quality. The site is a fully enclosed site. There are buildings that are part of the enclosure, and in between each building there is fence. So the site is fully enclosed, and the residences that have front doors facing Jacinto will have access to their front door through a fenced yard, but will be able to directly walk from the public sidewalk, up their sidewalk, through their gate, and into their front door. There's a limited number of units. I believe it is 16 units that have that possibility. Of course, their garages, their driveways are all within the site, so they would have to use their gate code, enter into the site, and then park in their garage. The applicant has made sure that there are solid walls separating any drive aisles on this project from the existing residential neighborhoods that surround it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now I want to hear from the public. We've got a lot of speakers tonight, so we're on different projects, so we're limited to 3 minutes. First speaker is David Brown. If you come up to the podium, state your name, address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, David M. Brown, 1845 South Rose Circle. I'm in the Ranch West neighborhood that will contain, if approved, the community. I am also the co-lead for the Community Association, now approaching 100 members. I bring from the community a consensus of support for this. We have looked forward to this kind of development for some time. However, one of the reasons we want to address the city is that although there is a consensus on this, there is also a consensus of concern, particularly regarding the impact of a zoning change like that you will decide on tonight on the community. Many of the people in the community, this is a 35-year-old community, built by, if you can recall, Estes Homes many years ago. I've been here that long, so I can remember Estes Homes. They bought into the community as with this lot designated as commercial. And this will change to residential, and the community believes, I think rightly so, that this will change the look and feel of the community, especially in terms of transportation and in terms of bringing 102 new families, welcome families, into our community. It's much better than the field mice that I've seen for 20 years now coming off of that field. However, there is a concern for the traffic, particularly on 2 east-wests that go through the community. Jacinto, which of course is the north border, of the proposed community, as well as Inverness, which is just a quarter-mile north toward the freeway. Both are east-wests. What happens on those streets is that they are no longer just serving as collector streets. That is what they were designed to do 40 years ago, before the US 60 came in and was designed. The US 60 is just about a half a mile from this development, and it no longer serves just as a neighborhood collector behind a shopping center. It has served for many years also as an east-west getaway, or get to Gilbert Road to get onto the freeway. As a result, we have many people going through off of the freeway, getting onto Jacinto to escape the major intersection of Baseline and Gilbert. They come through, and again, many of them are not residents of our community. They're just passing through, oftentimes very quickly. I've been working for years with city staff on this. We've gotten speed humps on the road, but we want to suggest some other possibilities to slow these people down. We have, it's a mixed community in terms of children. We have lots of children. There are school bus stops on Gentry, which is on one side of the, just north of the proposed community. We have lots of dogs that escape out of their houses. I've saved any number of dogs from being killed by people running down Jacinto from the speed. So very quickly, I know I'm even exceeded. I'm past. May I make just a quick statement? We have already sent to Vice Mayor Kavanaugh, as well as city staff, some of our proposals. We would like to see you consider more speed humps. We would like you to consider putting lines in at white lines and turn lanes in at Gilbert and Jacinto, as well as at 24th Street and Jacinto, so people can make left-hand turns without bogging the street back. We would like to see as well possibly a turn lane at 24th Street and 24th Street / Burke, and a Baseline, a left-hand designated turn lane. We'd also like to see it, again, possibly bollards in the streets for turnarounds to slow people down going through our community.
You've already submitted that list to the Vice Mayor?
Yes, these
Okay,
have already been sent to the Vice Mayor as well as to city staff. And the Vice Mayor, with his typical sensitivity to our concerns, has already gotten back to us and will be looking at this. And one other point that we would love to see is perhaps crosswalks so that people can get from the community, the new community as proposed, to our community safely, stepping in the street. State law, you must stop your car. That's one of the concerns we have as well. Thank you. Appreciate your allowing us to go over, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Board members, any questions?
Oh, yes, please.
I think the concerns that you have are good, and I think worth considering. However, if I'm not mistaken, those things are more of a traffic department rather than what we do here.
Yes.
So what we're doing is trying to approve the project. As far as the traffic and what you're concerned with, it goes to a different department, and we really don't make a decision on that. So just to let you know that, okay?
We understand that, board member. And again, what we wanted to indicate is that this change will affect our community.
Of course it will.
We believe it will be a positive change overall.
Of course.
Our major point is for transportation, and we understand that you can at least forward our concerns to streets, and then we will take it from there. And of course, we just wanted to go on record about our concerns, at the same time expressing our consensus.
Great. Board members, any other questions?
And anyone else? Or?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again.
Next speaker is Penny, is it Caltop?
Kelton.
Oh, it's an N. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Gotta scribble it in.
State your name, address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Penny Calton. I live at 1840 South Briar Circle, which runs right into Jacinto. Personally, I'm not against any development of luxury condos. I would much have preferred business development, but Can you guarantee that condos will be built and not an apartment complex? One question. I'm also concerned about the loss of privacy for a few of our neighbors that are on Jacinto. Their backyards butt against Jacinto. 3-story condos provides clear view into some of our neighbors' backyards. Is this even allowed? I also have traffic concerns with regard to the gated entrance on 24th Street. It's already a left turn lane for the shopping center and the street entrance to Jacinto. Extending it to accommodate a third entry would create a potential accident zone. Aside from traffic issues, I have an issue with the parking within the proposed complex. I've seen 2 separate plot plans, and there have been differing reports as to how many garages are available to condo residents. The first plan reports 132 garages, with 24 being double-car garages. This totals 156 garage spaces. The second plot plan is reported as 150. On both plot plans, it is noted there are 44 or 43 resident guest parking spaces. This total is less than the required of 2.1 cars per family, and it totals at 194 or 193. The minimum is 214.2 according to 2.1 per cars per family. Shared parking of 56 spaces is shared with the shopping center, and available street parking is on Jacinto of 38 spaces. These are part of the 238 reported available parking for the plot. Is it really the responsibility of the shopping center and the neighborhood to provide overflow resident parking? One important fact which was omitted was driveway parking spaces within the complex. How many cars will be allowed to park their second car on their drive to their garage? Another question. Will this be enough to accommodate the required 2.1 cars per family of 214.1? Another concern is that most of us on our street request a wall on Jacinto with no access to the street. We feel it would help reduce the new traffic and congestion that we do anticipate. And isn't a gated community supposed to be surrounded by a wall or a fence? And that's about it. I'm a little nervous, but at least I got my thoughts across.
You did good.
And I appreciate your time.
Any questions, board members? Nope, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here that could address these issues? Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Jeff Welker, 3125 East Dover Street, Mesa. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and address the issues that were raised. As we have been working through the process with both staff and the neighbors, have got a lot of input and some concerns that aren't just directly related to the project, but have been historic concerns the neighbors had, as Mr. Brown has illustrated to you. So let me quickly address those for you. As Mr. Brown illustrates, they have been asking for a while for additional traffic control in different areas throughout the neighborhood. And while we don't have a dog in that fight, we're supportive of them. However, we have no control over it, and that's certainly in the city's court, if you've talked about, and their transportation staff is going to continue to look at that and evaluate it. But as it relates to our project, let me explain to you a few, I think, key items. Number one is that the streets that are adjacent Jacinto and 24th to not only this site, but the shopping center overall, were designed with an understanding that this particular parcel was going to have commercial development on it. When you do the traffic count calculations, a commercial site would actually generate conservatively twice the amount of traffic for that parcel of land as our proposed development. And so we're not going to generate more traffic than it would be if it had developed commercial. We'll actually generate less. And 24th and Jacinto were designed as collector streets to handle that commercial traffic. We also were sensitive to the ideas, and the neighborhood asked us not to establish any new driveways from the project onto Jacinto, and we've done that. The entrance on 24th Street is commingled with the entrance into the shopping center, so we're not adding a new entrance, we're just expanding it. and it would have been expanded as part of the commercial development itself. On the west side, we exit, and it's a secondary exit only. It's not an entrance into the existing drive between the fitness center and this parcel. And so cars that will leave this site will enter onto either Jacinto or onto 24th Street the same way they would have if it had been developed commercially. There just won't be as many cars. And so whether or not the number of cars this project generates causes staff to decide they need to add or supplement or enhance traffic control in the neighborhood, we certainly would be supportive of that, but we don't believe we're contributing to an expansion of what was already anticipated, actually reducing it some. To speak specifically to the last speaker's worries about parking, the vast majority of our parking is contained inside. However, we do have 56 spaces that are shared, and as part of what would have been shared with the commercial development with the commercial site itself. We have plenty of parking for the residents itself, but this area of shared parking on the south and on the west would allow for visitors to park there if there were not enough spaces inside. We show the 38 spaces on Jacinto as to be illustrative only, not to suggest that they're part of our parking count, because they're not. It's a public street where public parking is allowed, and just like all the existing neighbors who have the freedom to park on the street can, those who have units, those 16 units as staff mentioned, that are fronting onto Jacinto, they would have that option if they chose to park there, to go into their unit and come back out. But we do provide plenty of parking inside, both in the form, every unit has garages, which is a unique for condo developments, and additional supplementary parking inside, and then the shared parking outside. Lastly, I'd like to discuss the concern she expressed about the wall along Jacinto. When we originally did the layout and presented to staff, we showed a solid wall along Jacinto. And that was in response to concerns that the neighbors had expressed to us. But staff had concerns, too, about that creating a disconnect between this new residential development and the existing residences. And so they asked us to redesign the site in that area to pull that wall back, not to lose the security and the gated features that we wanted for the project, but to instead allow those units to become part of the neighborhood there by fronting more directly onto Jacinto than they otherwise would. We're supportive of either arrangement. We're happy to do it either way. We weren't against the wall, and we aren't against this arrangement. But this is the arrangement that has prevailed, and we think it's a good layout and will work well, and so we hope you'll be able to support the project. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Jeff. Oh, hold on. That's the right one. There we go. Thanks, Jeff. The only question that I had, which I have to say that I compliment you guys on your design. I really think that visible walls that you have with the iron instead of the solid wall, to me, it creates more of a neighborhood feel and environment. But my question to you was one of the comments that was made earlier, and that was the line of sight from the third floor into can you address that? Have you guys looked at windows and things along that side?
Well, there's ways to screen those windows.
Right.
And when we get deeper into developing the construction documents, we're happy to work with staff to address those with window treatments. But we've tried to, it's kind of a fine line you walk when you're trying to integrate those units into the neighborhood. You want them nearby.
Sure.
To push them further away further takes them out of the neighborhood. So we've tried to create a balance where we don't have too much overreach. There's actually only 2 lots in that area that face Jacinto directly. All the other lots are up into cul-de-sacs, 2 cul-de-sacs. And so it's really only those 2 lots and then a few other lots that side onto Jacinto that would have that concern. And we're happy to continue to work with staff and the neighborhood going forward with the project on that issue.
Thank you.
That's great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
You bet.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve case number, let me make sure I got the right one, Z15039, District 3, 2200 through 2300 blocks of East Jacinto Avenue, with staff recommendation of approval with conditions. And that maybe we just make a side note that city staff pass on the comments about traffic control, and then continue to work as far as the design on the third floor of the windows facing that neighborhood.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Second.
Passes unanimously. Okay, the next case we have is Z1540 in District 1, 205 East McKellips Road, located on the south side of McKellips Road and the west. Excuse me, Mr. Wesley, can we also just go ahead and handle the other item on Jacinto or not right now first? Can we do that now? Okay, do we have a motion for the Javelino Lots District 3 plat?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve number 5B, the Jacinto Lofts, District 3, 2200 through 2300 blocks of East Jacinto Avenue, as approved with staff recommendation, the approval with conditions.
Is there a second?
I'll second again.
Please vote. Unanimous. Okay, let's go back to the one I was just reading. Z1540 in District 1, 205 East McKellips Road, located on the south side of McKellips Road and west of Mesa Drive. Rezone from LC to ID2 and site plan review. This will allow for development of a large vehicle rental facility, mini storage facility, and outdoor RV and boat storage. And we have some speakers on this. And I'm going to have the staff go ahead and give an overview, and then we'll go look to the public.
Chairman, member of the board, this is a rezoning from LC district to ID2 and with a IIP plan. Currently, this is a commercial zone land, so the proposed use can be there except two things, that storage of the RV and the automobile, the leasing of the automobiles, the big vehicles. So to accommodate that, the applicant has proposed the rezoning, but didn't want to rezone, or like we didn't want to support the rezoning into general commercial, which will bring even bigger impact to the neighborhood. That's why this is how the applicant wanted to rezone it, so we can control what comes in. So the land uses are pretty much LC district land uses, except that variations that I mentioned. The site plan that applicant has proposed has plenty of setbacks. From south side, it has 60 feet of setback to the canopy of the RV storage. Along Pasadena is 20 feet setback, just the way our current zoning ordinance wants, 15 feet along McKellips and 15 feet along the east property line. So the development standards are also not any change except minor. Our current zoning ordinance development standard says 15 feet of setbacks along, let's say, the east property line, for example, 15 feet per story. So in this case, it's a two-story mini storage, which would be 30 feet, but they're providing 15 feet. But in reality, it's actually 20 feet setback building that they're providing. They have 5 feet of encroachment into a stairwell from east side. Staff worked with the applicant. Initially, the site plan was a little different. Then staff considered the impact on the neighborhood, the Pasadena. So the driveway on Pasadena, the way it's proposed now, is pushed back to the north, so it aligns to the existing mini storage alley. And it's mainly would be from McKellips. We originally wanted not to have anything from Pasadena, but it didn't work out with the applicant and the traffic flow. And our fire department preferred a full access from Pasadena. So with that, they have mini storage, they have rental equipment, they have RV and boat storage in that property. That's how they have proposed. As you already know, we have residents. I think he's planning to speak. I have received a letter of concern from President of Lehigh Association, and with that, but staff's recommendation is approval with condition. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Any questions from the board? No. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's go to the public. I've got 3 cards here in support, and I've got 1 anonymous card that no one put their name in. So let's start with the first one. We'll figure out who this other person is. Carlos, you're the first one. Is Carlos not here?
No, Madam Chair, many of those are representatives of U-Haul, and
They
after
said they wish to speak.
yes, we'll do that after that we hear from the neighbors, and so we know what the
I
issues
got
are.
3 and I got a blank. That's all I
Okay,
got.
so if you have one from Carlos or Jeremy or Andy,
Yeah,
hold on to those until we hear from whatever
Okay,
objection there might be.
Anyone claim this?
That's the anonymous one.
Yeah. Look familiar? Is that you? Did you fill out this size card?
Opposed on there?
Yeah, you said you're opposed or you wish to
Yes,
speak.
ma'am. My name's Steve Fenley.
Okay, please, state your name at the podium so they can get in the
My
record your
name's
name and
Steve
address.
Fenley. I live at 302 East Juniper Street, Mesa, Arizona.
You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm not really opposed to this project. I'm opposed to the driveway on Pasadena. I went down City of Phoenix last week, and I noticed U-Haul has the same project in the same building at 2345 East McDowell Road. They have the storage buildings, RV parking, and they have one access driveway. You know, it's on a corner lot, and they have one access parking lot. The difference here is next door, directly to the east of this property, is also U-Haul storage, which was not disclosed to anybody. They own a 500 or 600 storage unit right next door that can be, after this is approved, can be adjoined. And so I'm concerned about the traffic coming out on Pasadena and not use on McKellips, because I don't want to. I've been in this neighborhood for 35 years, and you know that lot's been empty for 35 years. But I'd also like to see something on there, but I don't want to be stuck behind U-Haul trucks every day, because I use Pasadena 3-4 times a day, 7 days a week, and this is a 6 or 7 day a week operation, and you got inexperienced drivers coming in, picking up these trucks, driving out there, stopping, not knowing which way to go, and we're waiting behind them. I'm sure nobody likes sitting behind buses. But I'm sure they could take this project and look at it not as a single entity, but as 2 with their 255 property and see what they could do with it. I'd also like an opportunity to ask the fire department, because there's a 110-foot circle inside this property for a fire department turnaround. And I'm sure they could turn around a 40-foot U-Haul truck in there also. But I don't think they need the access to Pasadena Street. That's a residential area, and I think it should be separated from residential and commercial. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Board members, did you have any questions for the speaker? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, would you, applicant, like to go ahead and address?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Members of the board, my name is Ralph Pugh. Office address is at 1744 South Val Vista Drive here in Mesa. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon on behalf of Americo, which is the real estate development arm of U-Haul. You can see sitting with me here is Mr. Carlos Vizcarra, who is the president of Americo, along with Sulema Longoria, Jeremy, and Andy, who are here, who are our operational division. We'd like to just answer the question that's been raised about access, unless you want to hear more. I think the staff has covered in the staff report the reasons for the ID2 district and how that fits into this area. It's critical to remember, board members, that this site is zoned today LC. And so a retail development could occur here that would most likely have 2 access points, one on McKellips and one on Pasadena. And a retail use here would likely generate much more traffic than the U-Haul facility will. Here's what we've done with Pasadena and why we did it. We have, first of all, moved the access point that's on Pasadena as far north as we possibly can to be further away from the residential area. So the in and out on Pasadena does not line up with any residential street. It lines up directly across the street to the west from the exit of the other mini storage. Remember, this site is bookended by 2 mini storage facilities. So the first step was to move it further north, and at the direction of the staff, we did that. The second issue here is one of fire safety. While it is not technically a mandated requirement, because as Mr. Finley said, we do have turnaround movement on the site, it is always safer to have 2 access points. If there's an incident on McKellips and an emergency vehicle needs to get there, then Pasadena is open, and vice versa. So it's a helpful thing to do. It's the safe thing to do. More importantly, the third thing we did on Pasadena is we are striping the interior of our site so that vehicles leaving our site can only turn right. That's going to direct them to go right up to McKellips, and we're going to have signage prohibiting a left turn. So those 2 things will function effectively to keep traffic going right up to McKellips, not into the neighborhood. The other thing to think about for just a moment is the neighborhood south of here is a little complex. If you're renting a vehicle from U-Haul and you exit Pasadena and turn left, you're going to find yourself in a residential community you don't know how to get out of, and you'll be twisting and turning on streets. It's going to be much easier to go to McKellips. And the other point is, if there is an incident on McKellips, it's important to be able to exit onto Pasadena. So those are the reasons why we did what we did. But the most compelling of all is, frankly, the traffic counts are so minimal. We produced a traffic study that indicates that in the course of a 12-hour operating period, we could expect maybe 120 vehicles in 12 hours, 10 vehicles an hour on average. And even at the rush hour times, 6 vehicles in the morning, 8 to 10 in the PM rush hour. This is an insignificant addition of traffic. We believe the 2 accesses are important. We urge your recommendation of approval for this case and be happy to answer any questions that you might have, board members.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I do have a question. Ralph, so they do own the property to the east?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Allen, Board Member Allen, that's exactly right.
Okay. And is there any cross-access between the 2 sites?
Madam Chair, Board Member Allen, there is no cross-access. In fact, as Mr. Wahid Alam said in this presentation, we're going to have a 15-foot landscape buffer in between our 2 mini storage uses.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does the board want to go ahead and just vote on the case or hear the additional letters of support or additional speakers?
I don't think our representatives from U-Haul need to speak.
Okay, great. Does anyone would like to make a motion on this? With the modified condition 5D?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Content with what I've heard. And so I motion that we approve case Z 15040, District 1, 205 East McKellips Road. Approval with conditions with modified condition 5D.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please vote. Oh, actually, anyone, just please vote. There you go. Oops, I didn't vote. Can you redo that? I didn't vote nay. I hit the wrong button.
It's already recorded.
It's unanimous. It's approved. Thank you. Okay, now we're going on to 4F, which is Z1541, District 2, 2600 East Southern, located on the north side of Southern, east of and west of Lindsay Road, 1.43 acres, rezoning from RS 43 to OC and site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a banquet and conference center. If staff could give an overview, and then we've got some requests to speak.
Madam Chair, this is a request to exone an existing 1.4 acre lot that is currently zoned for single family residential and has been developed as a single residence. Rezone it to OC which is a limited commercial zone, and the applicant intends to use this as a reception center, which is a use that is allowed in the OC zoning district if all activities are confined to an indoor space. The applicant intends to use the rear yard, the existing rear yard, for the events, and so that will require a special use permit. Because of the way the lot is developed, it also requires a substantial conformance improvement permit to work around some existing nonconformancies based on how the property was built originally. So both of those requests, the special use permit and the skip, will be heard by the Board of Adjustment after the OC zoning request is in place and they have their requested zoning.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll hear from the public now. The first person is Charles Hegel. I'm not going to be able to get this one.
It's Higelheimer.
Okay, if you could state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes.
Charles Higelheimer, 2525 East Florian Circle, Mesa. My concern is the irrigation system that's been in place for a long time is at the back corner of that property. If you put up the aerial, I don't know if you can zoom into it, I brought it to their attention. So ingress, egress to the irrigation standpipe. That's where I have to go in to set all the ports. Since I'm the furthest person in on the system, I have to set all 8 ports every irrigation system. So that means I have to run around the block or through a fence, through 2 gates, across to other people's property to set this one. So my ingress, egress is my concern. Their lawyer did send a letter saying that they would grant me ingress, egress, but I didn't know if that's tied to the property or if it needs to be more binding to the property just in case they sell, instead of just a letter out there naming the people. So does it need to be binding to the property? Second, is there a dB level that needs to be heard? I don't know if it's you guys then for the zoning, since you've already talked about it, or the adjustment when they do the special permits for the noise, because it's outside, not in like most banquet halls where it is inside. The last 2 times they were a little louder. The DJs got a little loud, and since it's not a system that's in their control, every DJ can't say, don't go past this number. So, and it backs up to the resident's property. And since it is outside, that was a concern, but that's, I'm guessing, not a zoning issue. But those are the concerns.
Okay, any questions? Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, your zoning changed it. If you look at the aerial, you can see the concerns. I brought it to their attention.
And can I just quickly ask staff, now, the irrigation issue, that's been handled, my understanding, and then there is also, does the letter need to be tied to this case? How does that work?
Madam Chair, since we did hear about this from this neighbor, we did craft that original condition number 2, and then in working with our council, they determined that the letter that had been provided by the applicant would be sufficient to maintain access on that site. So we recrafted that condition number 2 to tie it to that letter. And so the condition number 2 should now read, grant access to the irrigation standpipe as agreed upon in the letter dated November 16, 2015, entitled Confirmation of Continued Access to Irrigation Standpipe.
So that will be a condition of the case.
That's correct.
Replacement for item number 2, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And then also, is it the police department or code compliance that's going to handle the noise complaints?
It would begin with code compliance, and if the issues were not resolved, then it would be escalated to the Board of Adjustment to revoke the special use permit. The special use permit will place controls on the way outdoor activities are run, and if those controls are observed, they retain their special use permit, but that can be revoked by the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, does that help?
That answered my 2.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, the next speaker on this case is John Wagner.
John Wagner. I'm right next to the property at 2550 East Southern Avenue. Some of the issues at point were being negotiated but have suddenly stopped. At best today, I'd like to have this postponed 30 days with the following issues that are a problem. This is already being used as a banquet party center without zoning or licensing. There's already alcohol and drug use on the property. The vagueness of the letter that has been presented, access to the irrigation canal, is totally inappropriate. The site plan currently shows that the property line will be moved 10 feet to the west, taking away an existing 35 to 40-year existing right-of-way. To say that we have access to the irrigation port is so vague, I can't believe it's accepted. There's a long list of issues that either need to be negotiated and or made in a plan of operation and conditional approval. At this point, I cannot approve the zoning. Appropriate use and best use for this property would be as existing properties on Southern, which are doctor's office, lawyer's office, or a business office. An outdoor reception is not appropriate for this neighborhood, both for noise, traffic, and security. I almost got ran over in my driveway on Saturday after they were serving alcohol. I have zero tolerance for alcohol. I realize it's legal, but somehow somebody has to be licensed. The loophole with this is that the banquet house doesn't serve alcohol. They rent it to renters. They serve the alcohol. The people that they hire are independent contractors, like a Mr. Bartender, which was there Saturday, and they're not licensed either. So those are all the issues that I have with existing use. Now, some might say, oh, we're trying to resolve those conflicts. They've had 5 months since I've moved in to show how they're going to act, and it's getting progressively worse, and they're not even approved for zoning or for licensing yet. That's all I have for now, unless you have any questions.
Any questions, Board? Nope. Thank you very much. Could the applicant come and address these issues?
Afternoon, board members. Reese Anderson, the law firm of Pugh and Lake, 1744 South Val Vista, number 217. I'm going to start with just our PowerPoint here, if I could. And if you don't mind, I crossed over the age of 40, so I'm going to pull these out.
Yeah, me too.
Chair Johnson, members of the board, it's always a pleasure to be here. Let me see if I can first just shed a little bit of light on just the larger context. And then I'm happy to address any questions or issues that you might have. Let me walk you through real quick and just show you this is what the reception center looks like today. Oh, did I go too quick? This is a vicinity map, just an aerial photo. We've outlined the site in red. Mr. Wagner is directly to our west or left on your screen. This is the site. Here, zooming in so you can see it. We'd have events both indoor and outdoor. And the outdoor part of this is considered by the Board of Adjustment, as you know. This exhibit here, we actually prepared when we were working with transportation on the driveways, and I think staff briefed you a little bit of that in the study session. But you can see here from this stretch of 24th Street to Lindsay, everybody has gone to commercial land uses. That is the plan for this area. And in fact, in talking with Mr. Wagner, he's expressed interest to go to a commercial land use someday. Here, you can see along this way, they've all changed. They've all gone to this commercial uses. We're RS-43 now. These houses that have been along here, and many of them have been torn down over the years, built in the 1960s is my understanding. Most of them are still on septic, but with this conversion here, we're going to change over to the sewer system at great cost. Also, we're going to run new water lines and fire sprinkle the entire building. Here's the site plan that you have before you, and I've got a colored one there just on the 24 by 36. We're about 1.4 acres in size, 5,600 square feet under the roof. There's a little storage shed that's colored gray there in the top. It's about 912 square feet. That's what's going to be handled through the skip because it's a nice looking shed. We use it just to store materials in now. Of course, it's perfectly allowed in the RS-43. When you change the OC, though, it would normally need to be torn down, but there's no reason to, so the skip handles, things like that. Here's some of the anticipated questions that I think you might ask me, which is parking. Just to the east of us is I'm going to mispronounce it, and I apologize to the church, but it's the San Naracani Mission. And there, we have a parking agreement with them. That is a copy of the letter that we have with them. They use our parking spaces sometimes. We use theirs. They often even use our facility when they've had dinners or little potluck dinners as part of church functions. Here's the concern about irrigation. You've heard a lot about it, is that there's an irrigation standpipe about where the tip of that red arrow is. This is a drawing. We started discussions with our neighbors on how do we best provide them access. This was a drawing early on that just this week, to be precise, that we show where we would angle the wall there so that everybody could get to that irrigation standpipe to do what they need to do, and then also put in a gate. So that was an idea early in the week, and it now, even as a few minutes ago, this is old, and I'll get to that in a second. This is a picture of it. That's what it looks like. It's not technically on our property, but to get to it, you need to walk on the McCowan property. Okay? If there's a slightly different angle, all the block and stuff, that's on Mr. Wagner's property there. And you can see it just in that little notch right there. Okay? So this design right here that we're talking about would provide access, but Chair Johnson and others, just in the last few minutes talking with Mr. Barney, who is the property owner to our north, what we want to do is not shift that wall over, but leave it where it's at to maintain that alleyway. That's going to cause us to lose a couple spaces, and poor Kim Stedman over here is cringing right now. We're still over what's allowed. And so I'm going to give you this thought for you to think about for a second. But if we kept the wall right where it's at, and I'm going to show you another picture. So you can see there, there's a wall that's partially built now. If you look at your screen, it's there. It's starting to lean. It's just old. That's about 10 feet off the property line now. Mr. Barney, Mr. Wagner, others, they use that to get back up there to access irrigation or to access the back of their yards. We've looked at the title commitment here, and I can show you copies of it. There's no recorded easement for this. It just exists historically. I can't find anything in any recorded documents anywhere. Despite that, the McCowans have always committed to providing fair access, reasonable access to their neighbors. And working with Mr. Barney, again, just in the last few minutes, what we'd like to do is leave the same concept of the site plan you see now, lose 2 spaces in the north and south end, and just kind of slide them over a little bit. And we'll work with staff to make sure that the new site plan is completely done and they've had a chance to look at it before it goes on to the council. But I think the concept of it, if you're grasping it and I can probably do a better job of using my finger on the board. I'll do my best to talk into the microphone here. Is that working okay? So this, right now, we were proposing just to have it come over to the property line. And what we do is just bring this back to where the wall is today that's on your screen. And we'd probably need to lose a space here and a space down there. That would allow Mr. Barney to continue north. What we were talking about was just like an angled driveway here where he could go through, but that's not to his preference. So the compromise, I think, that's fair for everybody is to just shift this over, leave it like the wall is today, but we'd complete the wall all the way over, but it would be open here so that people would not, visitors to our site would not migrate over onto anybody else's property.
But the landscape buffer?
Still there. So that landscape buffer we're talking about is just sliding everything over. That makes sense? And then I want to work with staff on that landscape buffer there. Perhaps the solution is and this one doesn't show it, but the site plan this was an early one. The site plan that's on your screen, and let me go back a little bit. You can see the landscape islands we've now added here. Those would remain along that side. Just some thoughts. I know John, he's going to want a fair chance to look at it, and we would not ask them not to.
So would you lose any more parking spaces other than the one on the north and the one on the south?
Yeah,
you won't lose any of the
Board
That
Member
wall.
Allen, when I look at that, it gets tight right here by this curve.
Right.
And the reason it's important for us is parking. And so this island right here that I'm pointing to is where things might get a little tight, and that's where we'd work with staff to see if could that be skinnied up or eliminated in some way. I think we've still got great landscaping everywhere else, and we're adding tremendous amounts with the project.
And Mr. Anderson, there was concerns also that when there are events there, that there might be some attendance of that facility going over to neighbors' properties. Is there anything can be done about that?
Well, that is a great question, Board Member Akita. So let me go back to that picture here. So you can see on the screen here, on the left side, you see the existing wall. On the right side, the wall ends. It's just open. That's just historically how it's been. I don't have an explanation for you. With this project, we would bring the wall all the way over. And so it's interesting when some of the allegations made against this, and some of them are a little bit salacious, talk about us. Here's the alleyway here. This screen kind of shows it. That red line that I put in there is my best guess on where the property line goes. And we would keep the wall. If you look at the right side of your screen, that wall would essentially stay in place. Okay? And that access drive would go through. But we'd take it all the way to the rear or the north part of the property. And that would keep people from going over. Okay? Now, listen, the wall's important to us also. Let me show you just a couple pictures. That when we look out across our neighbors, this is what we see today. These pictures were taken Tuesday morning. So the screening next door, that's important to us also. And if I went too fast, I'm happy to go back to any of those. So for us, clearly, what we've tried to do here is to address all those concerns. Let me go back up to another one, which Mr. Wagner touched on. So the concern about folks turning into his driveway is an interesting one because right now we don't have any signage. There's nothing designating the site. And so if somebody comes to an event, accidentally they could turn in the wrong driveway. We fully anticipate once we get our signage up front, it's lit, and it's identified, that will stop all of those accidents from happening. And I don't mean car crash by accident. I just mean accidental turn in the wrong driveway. What we've also done with the Transportation Department and working on the driveways is we're going to designate the far east side as the entrance only. That will take cars further away from Mr. Wagner's driveway that's there. And so I think that's a positive step too. Let me address, Board Member Akita, the question of you're holding events now. The McCowans bought this property earlier in 2015. They bought it from, the previous owners were operating their offices there. They were also operating a reception center there, and they had booked 2 commercial events that our clients inherited. There was no way to cancel them, give their money back without making a couple of brides very angry. Those events were held. We've been open with the neighbors about that. They knew it was happening. In fact, when Mr. Wagner bought the property, the seller told him that what we were doing there. So he was fully aware of it. There is a local bartending service that was hired by these folks called Hey Bartender that came, and they serve alcohol there. Of the other events that have been there, they've been non-commercial events, ones where they've been family members, close friends, and no charges were made. And we've worked closely. You might know, and if not, let me just tell you, there's an open code compliance violation on this property. There has been. But as you know, when you're working through the process, that's what we're doing now. But we have not, other than the 2 events we inherited, we have not booked any commercial events. And we've done so purposely. Did the McCowans have the opportunity? Yes. But I've talked to them about it, and they have not taken any money for any of these events, and they've turned down a lot of events. So I anticipate that question. Board Member Akita, maybe I went too far, but if there's others, let me address. Yes,
What's
ma'am.
the open code compliance case?
So that's a very interesting one because that code compliance case was for operating a reception center on an RS-43 property. Okay? And that case was actually filed by former business partners here who happen to actually be in the audience. I'm surprised they haven't spoke.
That would be me.
That's Mr. Elliott right there. Okay? And if
We have a lot to say about
and if they do speak, I'd appreciate the chance to respond.
We did not receive any blue cards from you, I don't believe, did we?
We're going to speak.
Okay.
I certainly am not inviting them to, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. That's
I have some questions for staff, actually.
Yeah.
You're talking about last minute trying to shift around a site plan where there's buffering landscaping, there's, easements, there's tight parking areas. How do you feel about this? Is this a continuance or is this something we take a look at?
We don't have, Madam Chair, we don't have dimensions on the plan. We are doing guesstimating over here based on the standard width of a parking stall, and if they retain the 10-foot access all along the west property line, that makes an already very tight site even harder to work with and get all of this parking. We're concerned that they would lose actually more than the 2 spaces they're suggesting. So we wouldn't have a level of comfort to move forward with this.
Would it be acceptable then to suggest maybe a continuance? Would you be acceptable to that?
I mean,
This is a game changer last minute.
I-
Could be a no.
We don't have any information on that.
Chair Johnson, I totally understand. Believe me, I mean, and if you saw me step out with Mr. Barney, that's what we were talking about. Do I wish I could have solved that earlier? Yes, but the issue came to me just as we were walking in. I do appreciate the continuance, and I don't want to push for a no by any means. I would just say that we certainly, this is such a simple change, but if staff and you feel in your collective wisdom that that's what the best thing to do is, by all means.
I think we should probably get it right.
Yeah. Well, we are going to get it right. We are.
Well, it's up to the board. Any discussion, any questions, any thoughts?
On my opinion is I would recommend that we continue this as well. I think there's several issues that can still be worked out. And I know a lot of this stuff a lot of the concerns by the Wagners, I think will be addressed through Board of Adjustments with the special use permit, correct? With the good neighbor policy and things like that.
That's correct.
But I have some concerns. That's why I asked the question about the parking. It seems kind of narrow, and I wouldn't want to supersede the say we would approve something like that or deny something like that without the chance to work through that with the planning department.
Sure. I appreciate that, Board Member.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Thank you.
I think we're all on the same, yeah.
Yes.
Any votes?
I would like to make a
Motions?
recommendation that we continue case number Z15041, District 2, 2600 East Southern Avenue, that we continue to the December meeting, December 16th.
Correct. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. It's unanimous for continuance to next month.
Thank you very
See you
much.
then. Okay, I don't believe there's any more items on the agenda. Is that correct? We covered everything on the back page, yeah? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Nope, there isn't. What?
Oh, there is one.
I'm getting the
Whoops.
wrong flags.
Uh-oh.
Okay, do I have a second to adjourn? All in favor? Aye, aye, aye. See you next month. Thank you.